The standard of the 2022 Players Championship was incredibly high, and it meant we got to see some of the very best shots of the entire season. These accurate pots and complex positional shots are being played by some of the best players in the world at the top of their game. But I'm still looking to recreate them as accurately as possible in the fewest possible attempts. I've picked the best 10 shots I could find from ITV's Hot Shots and World Snooker's Shot of the Championships, but we're going to start with Judd Trump. Ronnie O'Sullivan's managed to force him into playing a tough long pot here, but not only does Judd manage to get it, he crucially cannons the red away from the black and finishes in perfect position. Not only is this a really tough pot, but you need to have the confidence to know where the cue ball's going to end up, and if you're going to cannon the red at the right angle. This was a really tough shot to get right, and I managed to get close to potting the red on a few occasions. To get the cannon, you don't need any spin, you just need to play the shot at the right amount of pace to make the cue ball break wide enough. I got this on my 6th attempt, hit it a little bit too hard, but was able to pot the black, so it's a good start. Jimmy Robertson had an impressive run in this tournament, but he was struggling to get a frame on the board in the semi-final. He ended just the wrong side of the pink, so it was very difficult to get on the black on the top cushion. He ended up powering the cue ball around 4 cushions to leave himself a shot of the black. He then potted the black to tie the game before winning it on a respot. This one's incredibly difficult for me to get right because I don't have the same amount of cue power as Jimmy Robertson and my table isn't quite as fast, so that meant I had to hit it almost full power with a lot of right hand side and a small amount of backspin. It needs to be played as a slight stun shot rather than a screw shot, otherwise the cue ball will head towards the middle pocket. You're relying heavily on the right hand side here to make the cue ball travel the distance. I wasn't far away from getting the cue ball round the table, but I was having trouble with how straight the shot was. On my 8th attempt I hit it about as hard as I could. Didn't quite get it straight on the black, but I think that's the best I can possibly do. And it meant I was just about able to roll the black in from here dead weight. Yang Bingtao was in full attack mode against Barry Hawkins, not only potting the long red here, but managing to cannon another away from the black to leave himself in good position. I think this shot's even harder than the previous two. It just requires a lot of backspin, but you really have to hit it well to catch the red thin enough. I potted the red on a few occasions here, but kept hitting the red far too thick, pushing the black towards the side cushion. Ironically, I got it on my 3rd attempt but missed the pot. I'm not sure this is exactly how Yan played it, but he probably knew if he hit the top side of the red, he was highly likely to get rid of the red from the black and possibly finish on the pink even if he did push the black safe. However, it was taking me quite a few goes to get in the right place, and that's before mentioning that the pot itself from this position is a challenge in itself. I was happy to pot it as many times as I did, and I was relieved to finally get this and get nicely in position on the black. Neil Robertson's in a really awkward position here. Even if he gets on the brown, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get the cue ball back down the table and make the frame-winning clearance against Kyren Wilson. Even though the green itself is really straight, he manages to force enough of an angle to remove the brown from the cushion. I felt on the first couple of attempts this would need a bit of left-hand side, but I saw the top spin on the shot automatically swung the cue ball enough to the left, so I could get the cannon on the brown without any side spin whatsoever. However, getting the cannon in itself was really difficult. I managed to get it on my 6th attempt, but didn't quite nudge it onto the right pocket. That was a really difficult shot. I managed to get the brown out, but unfortunately couldn't get it to go back across the other side of the table. Though saying that, from there, that's pretty comfortable to get on the blue. Even though the last shot was incredibly difficult, unfortunately they keep getting harder, as we got this shot from Kyren Wilson. This is probably one of the best shots of the season so far. This shot needs to be played with a small amount of right hand side and a lot of backspin. You need to cue it really well without a lot of power, and the shot itself has to be incredibly accurate if you want to put the pink down the cushion at this angle with this amount of speed. To start off with, I wasn't quite getting through the ball well enough, and this meant when I finally got it on my 8th attempt, unfortunately I didn't screw the cue ball far enough back to finish on the black and it ended up right on top of it. Even though all the shots I've had to play so far have been incredibly challenging to play, finding them was even more difficult. Unfortunately, a lot of the shots chosen by ITV and World Snooker were quite a bit weaker than this, and you may see examples of that in a minute. I partly solved this problem by finding some of the shots for myself, but unfortunately I didn't see enough of the tournament to pick all of the best shots, so I'm bound to have missed some good ones somewhere. However, this shot is definitely one of the hardest I've tried in quite a while. Not only is it a complex positional shot, but actually potting the pink down the cushion at that speed is incredibly challenging. Even if you get really close, the pocket just spits the pink out because it's moving so quickly. By now I realised I didn't quite have to hit it full power, otherwise I wouldn't finish on the black, but I was still nearly hitting it as hard as I possibly could. That led to my first miscue, which wasn't bad after 36 attempts at this shot, but I still wasn't getting any closer until my 40th attempt, when I finally got it. But would the white slow down in time? It did, and the crowd went wild. And I was able to pot the black.
Don't know if that's over 50 attempts, we'll find out. Well, it was only 40 attempts in the end, and I think that was pretty good because it was about as difficult as the Judd trump shot from last year. Mark Williams now with a tough pot down the cushion, but fortunately I don't think it's going to be quite as difficult as the previous shots.
I don't have to power it round the angles this time, just screw it back a little bit, but the fact that it's still pretty close to the cushion makes it a tough pot. I was pretty happy to get that on my first attempt, but by now the crowd had lost interest and went to sleep under the table.
We've got another Jimmy Robertson shot coming up next after we find Yusuf from Istanbul, Turkey.
There we go. This is a brilliant snooker escape against John Higgins. He manages to play the cue ball around 4 cushions, hit the red and leave it completely safe. I've explained before how knowing the line someone took with these makes it a lot easier, so I thought I got it exactly right on my first attempt, but didn't quite go tight enough to the green. I tried to go a little bit closer and ended up hitting the green, which wasn't good, but on my third attempt I got the shot perfectly and landed nicely on the red.
With no way of getting the shot safe here, Neil Robertson's been forced into this difficult yellow in the middle pocket.
If he missed it, he would almost certainly have lost the frame, so it was a critical pot under pressure. And I didn't really like the look of how close the cue ball was to the baulk cushion and how much of an awkward angle it was. I potted it a little slower than Neil.
After we find Aliyah from Turku, Finland, we've got a Ricky Walden shot.
If he missed the pink here, he'd almost certainly have lost the match, but he manages to knock it clean down the cushion. This is where the shots start to get a little bit dodgy. Although this is a crucial shot played at a key moment, it isn't anywhere near as difficult as at previous shots, though I was still pretty happy to get it on my first attempt.
To get into position here, Neil Robertson needs to screw the cue ball back quite a long way.
Especially being right-handed, I wasn't sure how easy it was going to be to screw the cue ball back far enough for this red on the top cushion. On my first attempt I really had to stretch at it, but I managed to pull the cue ball back all the way down the table for the red. Didn't manage to hit the top cushion, but still ended up in pretty good position. Again, this one wasn't anywhere near as difficult, at which point the audience got up and went home.
This time the results are pretty easy. Third goes to Yang Bingtao, moving the red away from the black here was a brilliant shot and left him in perfect position. Second goes to Neil Robertson, removing the brown away from the cushion to clear up and win the match. First definitely goes to Kyren Wilson. Even though this was just a pure exhibition shot, it's probably the best shot of the season, or the best I've seen so far.
So a combination of some excellent shots and some that made it look like they'd run out of ideas and stopped looking. But if you want to see some videos that don't have that problem because all of them were chosen by me, then have a look at these two. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.